One common evening mistake that triggers arthritis pain. Most people believe their arthritis pain is unpredictable. Some mornings you wake up and your joints feel okay. Other mornings, stiff, heavy, almost locked, and you have no idea why. You start thinking, maybe it was the weather, maybe I slept wrong, maybe it's just getting worse. But what if the pain you feel in the morning actually begins the night before? What if right now there is one simple thing happening in your evening routine that is quietly, consistently making your joints worse? Not a disease flare-up, not bad luck, not your age. A habit, a repeated, invisible mistake. One most people never even think to question. By the end of this video, you're going to recognize that mistake. And more importantly, you'll understand why your body has been giving you signals all along and why you've been missing them. Let's get into it. Here's the reality of how most people approach arthritis pain. They focus almost entirely on what they take. Supplements, medications, anti-inflammatory foods, hot and cold packs. And yes, all of those things matter. But there's a massive blind spot. Nobody asks, what am I repeatedly doing every single evening that is undoing everything else? It's not just what you take. It's what you repeatedly do without noticing that shapes how your joints feel day after day. Think about it this way. Imagine you're trying to fill a bucket with water, but there's a slow leak at the bottom. You keep pouring, keep adding, keep trying, but the bucket never fills. The evening mistake is that leak. You do all the right things. Maybe you eat well during the day, you take your supplements, you even do some stretching. But then evening comes, old habits kick in, and everything you build up gets quietly drained away. This isn't about willpower. It's not about being disciplined enough or trying harder. It's about awareness. Because you cannot change what you cannot see. So let's make this visible. I've spent a significant amount of time studying patterns in people who struggle with chronic joint pain. Not just what they're diagnosed with, but how they actually live, what their days look like, what their evenings look like. And when you look closely enough, a pattern emerges. A very consistent, very predictable pattern. It doesn't show up in their medical files. It doesn't get discussed in most clinical settings. But it shows up in behavior. In the tiny, automatic, unexamined choices people make between 7 p.m. and bedtime, over and over again. And that pattern, it reliably worsens joint inflammation, night after night. This video is not a list of 10 random tips. What I'm sharing with you today is one core mistake, and I'm going to go deep on it, because understanding why it happens is what makes real change possible. The mistake is this. Prolonged stillness immediately after dinner. You eat your evening meal, and within minutes, you sit. You sink into the couch. You open your phone or the television turns on, and before you know it, 45 minutes have passed. An hour, maybe more, and you haven't moved. Now this feels harmless. It feels like rest. Your body is tired after a long day. You deserve to relax. That logic makes complete sense. And it's exactly why this mistake is so common and so persistent. But here's what's actually happening inside your joints during that window. Your joints are surrounded by something called synovial fluid. Think of it as a natural lubricating system. It cushions the joint, reduces friction, and carries nutrients to the cartilage. This fluid moves when you move. When you're active, walking, stretching, just shifting your body, that fluid circulates. It keeps joint surfaces nourished. It helps manage the buildup of waste products that naturally accumulate from the body's daily processes. But when you sit still for extended periods, especially after eating, when your body is already directing a lot of energy toward digestion, that circulation slows down dramatically. And here's where it gets important for arthritis, specifically. In arthritic joints, inflammation is already present at some level. That inflammation produces byproducts, fluid buildup, cellular debris that need to be cleared away. Movement helps clear them. Stillness lets them accumulate. So when you go still for 45 minutes or more right after dinner, you're essentially creating the perfect environment for inflammatory buildup. During the window when your body is already under metabolic load from digestion, then you go to sleep for 7 or 8 hours. More stillness, more time for that fluid to settle, for those joints to stiffen, for inflammation to sit undisturbed. And when you wake up in the morning, stiff and aching, it feels like it came from nowhere, but it didn't. It started the night before. It started on the couch. The stiffness you feel at 7 a.m. was quietly built between 8 and 10 p.m. This is not a medical diagnosis. Every person's body is different, and arthritis has many faces. But as a general pattern of physiology, rest without recovery, stillness without circulation, it's consistent and it's real. Let's talk about why this habit is so hard to break, even when you know better. It comes down to how habits work. Every habit has three parts: a cue, a routine, and a reward. The cue is finishing your evening meal. That's a deeply embedded signal. Dinner is done. The day is over. Now I rest. It's a transition moment. Your brain has learned to interpret post-dinner as the official start of downtime. The routine is specifically sitting in a comfortable, low-stimulation position. Couch, recliner, bed, phone in hand, or TV on. The reward is the feeling of relief, of finally stopping. That feeling is immediate, it's real, and it's pleasurable. Here's what makes this especially tricky. The consequence, worsened joint pain, doesn't arrive for hours. It shows up the next morning when you've completely disconnected it from the evening behavior that caused it. The brain is wired to learn from immediate feedback. When there's a long delay between a behavior and its consequence, the brain doesn't make the connection. It just logs. Couch after dinner equals good. Morning stiffness equals mystery. You never get the data point that would change the behavior. Until now. Because just understanding this, just being able to trace the line from evening stillness to morning pain, changes everything. Once you can see the connection, you can't unsee it. Your body has actually been trying to tell you about this for a long time. You just haven't had the context to hear it. Here are the signals people commonly describe, but rarely connect to this pattern. Slight tightness in the knees or hips about 20 to 30 minutes after sitting down in the evening. It's subtle, not pain exactly, just a sense of compression, like the joint has been gently squeezed. Heaviness in the hands or fingers that develops over the course of the evening. You might notice it when you reach for something, or when you try to open a jar before bed. Reduced range of motion when you finally get up. That moment when you rise from the couch and something feels reluctant, like your joints need a few steps to remember how to move. A vague sense of itchiness in the lower back or hips by the time you're getting ready for bed. Different from tiredness, more like an internal pressure. These are not random sensations. They are your body's attempt to communicate. This position has been held too long. Something needs to move. Most people dismiss these signals or don't notice them at all. They become background noise, the expected soundtrack of having arthritis. But they're not inevitable. They're informational. And when you start listening to them, really listening, not as complaints, but as data, you gain something incredibly valuable. The ability to intervene before the damage is done. Here's a pattern that comes up again and again. Someone is doing genuinely well during the day. They've made smart choices. They're moving more. Maybe they've adjusted their diet. They're taking their joints more seriously. And they feel the difference. But then evening comes, and the old version of themselves shows up. Dinner, couch, phone, 2 hours gone. And the next morning they wonder why they still wake up stiff. Why the improvements they've worked toward don't seem to last. It's not because the daytime efforts don't matter. They absolutely do. But there's an asymmetry that most people don't account for. A consistent evening mistake can erase a significant portion of the benefit built up during the day. Not completely, not instantly, but over weeks and months. The cumulative effect is real. Think of it like a boat with a slow leak. You can be a strong rower. You can have a great engine. But if you're not addressing that leak, progress is always going to feel harder than it should. Consistency isn't just about doing the right things more often. It's about not undoing them every night. So what's the practical shift? It's not complicated. That's one of the most important things to understand here. The solution doesn't need to be dramatic. In fact, if it's too demanding, it won't stick. And a habit that doesn't stick doesn't help. The goal is this. Break the stillness within 20 to 30 minutes after dinner. That's it. That's the core shift. This doesn't mean going to the gym. It doesn't mean an intense walk or a specific exercise routine. It means interrupting the prolonged static position before joint fluid begins to pool and stiffness begins to set. Here's what this can look like in real life. A 10-minute walk around the block right after dinner. Not for fitness, just for circulation. Just to keep the joints moving through their range while the body is still metabolically active. Or, if a walk isn't possible, standing up and doing a few gentle movements in your living room. Rolling the ankles, extending the knees, opening and closing the hands. Nothing extreme, just motion. Some people find it helpful to link this new habit to something they already do, right after clearing the dinner table, right after the evening news. The existing routine becomes the cue for the new behavior. And if you do sit down afterward, which is perfectly fine, try to build a rule. Every 30 minutes, get up, walk to the kitchen, stand at the window for a moment, let your joints move. You're not overhauling your evening. You're inserting moments of circulation into it. Small, regular, sustainable. Over time, these small interruptions make a measurable difference, not just in morning stiffness, but in how joints feel throughout the following day, because you've changed the environment inside them overnight. Here's the most important thing I want you to take from this. Arthritis pain is not just about what's happening inside your joints at the cellular level. It's not just about inflammation markers or cartilage degradation or immune responses. Even though all of those things are real and important, it's also about patterns. Your pain is not random. It is patterned, and patterns can be understood, interrupted, and changed. The evening mistake we talk about today, the prolonged post-dinner stillness, is just one pattern, but it's a powerful one because it happens every single day. That means it has enormous cumulative influence. And the flip side of that is also true. A small, consistent positive change applied every single evening also has enormous cumulative influence. This isn't about perfection. Some evenings you'll forget. Some evenings the couch wins. That's completely normal. The goal is a gradual shift in the average, not a flawless execution. What changes first is awareness. You start to notice the subtle tightness that comes after sitting too long. You start to recognize those microsignals. And instead of dismissing them, you respond to them. That's when the relationship between you and your body starts to change. Not a cure, not a miracle, just a clearer, more honest conversation between what you're doing and what you're feeling, and the wisdom to adjust. If what you heard today resonated, if something clicked, I want to ask you to do one thing tonight. Just one. After dinner, set a timer for 25 minutes. When it goes off, stand up, move for 5 minutes. That's it. No pressure, no performance. Just see how your body responds. Notice whether the tightness that normally builds through the evening is different. Notice whether getting up from the couch before bed feels a little easier. Start collecting your own data. Because the best health knowledge isn't just what you read or watch. It's what you observe in yourself consistently over time. If you want more practical, grounded content like this, the kind that actually connects to how real people live, subscribe to this channel. Not because it's a big ask, because this is a space built specifically for that kind of depth. And if you know someone who struggles with joint pain, someone who wakes up stiff and doesn't understand why, share this with them. The awareness alone can be genuinely useful. Take care of your joints tonight. They'll thank you in the morning.